punch the record on this, and I'm going to see if there's anybody who has anything that they'd like to share with the group. I'm going to call on Dorothea a little later to share when we have a few more people in the group. But are there any new people, anybody who's here for the first time or second time? And we're kind of curious how you found out about the classes and what you might hope to gain. You just unmute yourself and we'll be happy to listen to you. So most of the names I know. And if no one is new, maybe I just don't know you well enough. Does anybody else have anything that they kind of care to contribute to the group as a whole? Something you've learned, something you have a question about, something we can talk about before we get started? If we don't hear from you, then I'm going to call on Scott. He's going to maybe explain one time about what's coming up with the next walk. And then we'll come back to it again, maybe the walk at the end of the program. So maybe a couple announcements.
Yeah, so we're having the next walk will be the same location, Saturday, August 27th. We'll do it at 10 o'clock in the morning instead of 11 o'clock, just because it likely be hotter at that time. So yeah, if people aren't familiar with north, south, east, and west, it's just go to Valley River Center parking lot. I know it was actually at our walk this past Saturday. There was a lot. They had the shuttle buses there for the World Track Meet, so there was a lot of people there, and that's also a place they often do shuttle buses to Autzen Stadium for like the spring game. So if you kind of know that area of the parking lot at Valley River Center, so you're west of the of the actual the center, but towards the riverside of Valley River Center, that big parking lot back there. So you butt up against the bicycle path, and there's a bike bridge right there. So that's where we met. And
so is it around where they were parking the buses? Is it around there?
Correct. Yeah, we were just 50 yards south, 50 yards the other way, away from Portland, in that parking lot. That's where that bike bridge is there. Just okay. Because just north side of Valley River Center, that's where Red Robin is and all that stuff right there. Red Robin and where Good Pasture Island Road is right there. So we're you just have to go to the river, and that's where the bicycle path is and the bridge. And so yeah, we had 16 of us total there. I heard Charlie talking about it when I logged in, but there were 16 of us total, and six of us providers from Eugene, plant-based providers. So that was great. So we got to talk to a lot of some of the members that we hadn't met as much yet. We got to talk with, and then everyone, all the other people that came, had a lot of good conversation. It was a good walk. It was pretty there and mostly shady, and it was great. But yeah, so we have that. The next one, the third one, then the Saturday, August 27th. So mark that down, and you can always keep up on upcoming events on the Eugene Plant-Based Provider website. There's a section for upcoming events there, and Sean, who was one of our members of Eugene Plant-Based Providers, he's a dietitian at McKenzie-Willamette Hospital. He's in charge of the website, so I count on him to keep it up to date. So it's not that one doesn't show that as of today, that doesn't show on there yet, but keep it looking there. And also I try to put the upcoming events on the class newsletter every Sunday as well. So that's coming up. And then also to mark on your calendars, it's not too soon. It's not till October, but October 15th and 16th, that's a Saturday and a Sunday. October 15th and 16th is the Health and Wellness Expo at the Lane County Fairgrounds. And Eugene Plant-Based Providers, Charlie got us signed up for a booth there. So we're gonna have a booth there. We'll have some handouts and things. Charlie will do a presentation there. And we'll have Eugene Plant-Based Provider members manning the booth. And so we'll be there all weekend. So definitely come out to that to look at the other stuff and check out our booth. And
So is that
Great.
at the fairground?
yeah, at the fairgrounds, and it's in the first two pavilions. I think it's Pavilion 1 and Pavilion 2, which is not the big main. It's not the circle one, and it's not the main one that they have the big events in. But it's like if you go to the fair, it's the one they have like the quilts, and the like the food prizes. You know, kind of those first two little smaller pavilions. That's where it's located at there. So that's what we got coming up.
Thanks for reviewing all that, Scott. And we
Yeah.
hope that many of you can make it to the events and bring your friends and family or whatever it might be. And, you know, it's a way we can continue to socialize, particularly the outdoor events. And I think those indoor events are pretty aerated. The one in October, even though it's inside a building, it's got plenty of airflow in there, I suspect.
And just for FYI, I was gonna say, just for FYI, we do plan to have a walk in September and October as well. So the goal is going to be to have a walk once a month from May through October, just because that's when we have the decent weather. And so just kind of keep that in mind. Going forward, we're going to try to do one every month from May through October.
So are you gonna have them all at the Valley River Center?
I'm not sure yet. We'll see. The consensus was after this last Saturday that we wanted to do that spot again, just because it was such a nice spot, good places to park. It's a good, pretty part of the path to walk on. But yeah, that's up for debate. People can chime in when they come, and we can always do other places. Just seemed like a pretty popular spot.
I've never walked there before, but it's become one of my favorite spots with the first time. So maybe it was the novelty, but it really was beautiful. And, you know, walking along the river, it was, and it was flat. It wasn't, you know, difficult kind of walking, and it was shaded. So it wasn't like blistering hot or anything. There were a lot of positives about it. And of course, the people were pretty magnificent.
Yeah, I agree. This Skinner's Butte one was a little bit more challenging because we had that big hill to go down there out of the parking lot. And so it's maybe not. And then there was a lot more people there on that part of the path and the playground and all that there at Skinner's Butte. Might have been a little bit too clustered when we were there in May.
Yeah. Yeah, it was nice though, too. Okay. So we're going to continue on, but before we do, we've got pretty much the class full, and we've been at this for a few minutes. So Dorothea kind of shared with me some of her comments about benefits she's had from attending these classes. So I'm going to ask her to maybe share with the rest of the group now, if you would. Let them know the joy that you're feeling and why, and maybe they'll have some questions for you.
Okay. After I've been on this whole food plant-based diet for 3 months, I had kidney disease, 3rd stage kidney disease. And after being on this diet for 3 months, my kidney function is back to normal.
So stage 3 kidney disease, back to normal in 90 days.
Yes.
So maybe you could share with the group how difficult this was. You probably had some reservations about making this change in your life, probably not believing it would do much for you. I don't know what your thought process was, but could you share that with us?
Sure. The PA for one of my physicians had suggested that I do this. And I looked on the internet and stuff, and I didn't see any thing that said that it helps your kidneys. So the first time I was on this, I shared that. And then Charlie and Scott both said that you guys had had a class on kidney disease. And so I listened to it, and Charlie had said that he had had like 3 or 4 people that this had happened to. And I was just so motivated by that that I just went you know, just went to it. And it wasn't hard because I was just motivated about what Charlie said, you know, about these people going from stage 3 to normal. So that's what motivated me to do this diet. And it really hasn't been that hard for me. So that's what I'm sharing today.
Well, congratulations to you, and we're thrilled for you, all of
That's
us.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Hallelujah.
yeah, thank you.
Wow.
So Scott and I have both seen, these are the kind of stories that inspire us to do another class. You know, it's like, and it happens not occasionally. It happens on a regular basis for those people who choose to make the change. So hopefully that gives you a little motivation, a little more to kind of stay on track. If you get off track, get back on the train and travel along with us on this journey and regain your health. That's the end of my lecture. No.
Inspires me. That was inspiring. That was awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, Charlie,
Yes, go
I'd
ahead.
like to ask Dorothea, because I have a lot of food issues on the diet because of my sensitivities. I was
Yes, Lynn.
wondering, what foods did you enjoy the most on the diet? Like maybe you'll name something that will be helpful to me and maybe to others. What did you like the most, or what did you eat the most of that you enjoyed?
I'm a sugar fan.
Oh,
And that's not part of this program. But one thing that I found on the website is some recipes. And there's a recipe in there for bran muffins, Christine bran muffins. And there's no sugar in that, no oil, no salt. So there's no SOS. And so that was something that I really liked. Another thing that I've been eating a lot of is quinoa with cauliflower and made with low sodium vegetable broth. And that's really good. I really like that. For breakfast, I usually have oatmeal. And lunch is really varied. Today I had corn on the cob. And I don't remember what else. And I have difficulties also because I have had a kidney stone. And I'm not quite sure about the foods that I can eat. I've got varied opinions from my urologist and from Scott. So I'm gonna figure that one out.
okay. Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
Mhm.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for Dorothea or anybody else?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, iPhone.
It's kid.
I'm in the shop working. Dorothea, what did you say you have for breakfast?
Usually oatmeal with cinnamon.
I thought you said it wasn't not coffee, but it sounded kind of like coffee. Do you remember saying anything like that?
Coffee? No, I don't
breakfast?
drink coffee.
So you used to do oatmeal every day?
Usually, sometimes another thing that I snack on is I might have some oh, what is it? Some grape nut cereal. I might have a bowl of that. And also some whole wheat bread. I eat that, and I have applesauce on it.
And
So I
then the
know,
I had was the quinoa low sodium broth cauliflower. Is that something you put together, or can you buy that frozen at Whole Foods or Market of Choice or something?
no, I make that myself.
And you buy the low sodium broth?
Yes.
Do you know what brand?
Well, I usually get it from Trader Joe's.
So it's like 150 whatever per serving.
Milligrams of sodium.
A lot of the ones, like the Pacific, kind of a mainstream brand, they have like 600 per serving.
Yeah,
So,
you don't want those.
So I look really hard. I used to make my own, but it just was a lot of work.
Sure, sure.
In the winter, I'll go back to make my own.
I found that this is something else when I have a little bit um grape nuts, when I have that with oat milk, and I get that also, the oat milk I get also from Trader Joe's.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Dorothea, and thanks for the questions. And we're going to kind of go ahead, and if we have time at the end, we'll do some more questions, but I want to continue on where Scott left off. We learned about tortoises and rabbits and birds the last time, and cancer, and we want to continue on with the cancer discussion. So I'm going to kind of share my screen. We're going to talk about some areas that maybe you might find a little controversial or upsetting, and we'll talk about it. We are also going to talk about hope, share some things with you that give you hope, that you don't have to be the victim. You don't have to suffer because your family members all had cancer, that you have to have cancer yourself. So I'm sharing the screen, and I'm going to go to my thumb drive, and I'm going to look up, I'm going to get to somewhere where I have to go here, along here to my number 11, I think it is, on the tip classes. Let's see if we can kind of find 11 in here somewhere. Must be here somewhere. It's coming closer. Here we go. All right, let's open that up. And we're gonna start out with, a number of you may have family members, friends, or whatever it is, and who have developed cancer and have been offered chemotherapy. And so I don't know how many of you have actually questioned how effective chemotherapy is. For certain types of cancers, it's amazingly helpful. But for many of the kind of cancers, it's not so helpful. So I'm going to start out with how effective is chemotherapy for cancer, should you or a family member or loved one develop it, as to what you might consider doing either along with this chemotherapy or potentially even in place of it. So this is a decision that you'll have to make with your doctor as to what you choose, but you should be able to hear both sides of the benefits, the advantages, disadvantages, those sorts of things. So let's first talk about how effective chemotherapy is first.
Chemotherapy is one of the most common treatments for cancer. How effective exactly is it for improving survival and quality of life? This video and the next will answer those questions. Over the next few decades, the number of new cancer cases will continue to skyrocket. Are we winning the war on cancer? Sadly, in general, no. This despite the introduction of hundreds of new anti-cancer drugs. The war on cancer has been likened to the war on terror. No matter how many drone strikes you do, it's nearly impossible to kill all the bad guys, and no matter how precise the bombing, one must always consider the collateral damage. The toxicity from cancer therapy can be debilitating, and not just health-wise. There's also the financial toxicity. Patented anti-cancer drugs are priced at up to nearly $1,000 a day. Even with health insurance, the average cost to patients for stage 4 breast cancer, for example, can run $190,000. It's bad enough to be fighting for your life without bankrupting your family at the same time. A problem still common to this day. Who can forget the apocryphal story of Walter White, working 2 jobs with health insurance and still could not afford the cancer care? Now, not everyone is willing to start their own meth lab, but many are willing to go for broke. A large proportion of cancer patients reported their willingness to declare bankruptcy or sell their homes to pay for treatment. Look, aren't the high prices justified if new and innovative treatments offer significant benefits to patients? But you may be shocked to find out that many FDA-approved cancer drugs may lack clinical benefit. Well, then how did they become FDA-approved? Most approvals of cancer drugs are based on flimsy or untested surrogate endpoints, and post-marketing studies rarely validate the efficacy and safety of these drugs on patient-centered endpoints. Let me explain what that means. New chemo drugs are increasingly approved just based on so-called surrogate endpoints, which means instead of looking at what we really care about, survival or quality of life, they approve drugs based on things like response rate, tumor shrinkage. But who cares if a tumor shrinks if it doesn't actually extend your quantity or quality of life? Right? It's kind of counterintuitive, but just seeing a tumor shrink on a CT scan or an MRI is not necessarily correlated with improvements in survival or symptoms. In fact, most studies that have actually followed people out found low correlations with survival. The most recent comprehensive analysis found 90% of studies of such validation trials found little correlation with overall survival. Of 36 new chemo drugs approved by the FDA based on these kind of surrogate endpoints, once they were actually put to the test in the real world, only 1 in 7 was actually shown to extend life, and half explicitly flopped, and the rest remain untested, revealing that most cancer drug approvals have not been shown to, or do not, improve clinically relevant endpoints. Exorbitant drug prices are bad enough for treatments that work, but charging vulnerable patients for drugs without evidence that they actually improve patient survival and quality of life is unconscionable. Why doesn't the FDA require proof that chemo drugs actually benefit patients before approving them? Drug companies say that requiring randomized controlled trials with meaningful measures would take too long. But the study time reduction using surrogate endpoints rather than overall survival is estimated at just 11 months. So instead of it taking 7.3 years to come to market on average, it would take 8.2 years. Yes, look, we want to get these drugs out as soon as possible, but only if they're actually gonna help people. Do cancer drugs improve survival or quality of life? You don't need to know, according to our broken regulatory system, and things aren't much better over in Europe. A systematic evaluation of chemo drug approvals showed that most enter the market without evidence of benefit on survival or quality of life, and even years later, there was still no conclusive evidence that these drugs offered any benefit, and when they did, the gains were often marginal. That's why you see editorials in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute referencing Hans Christian Andersen, the author of The Tale of the Emperor's New Clothes. The studies all converge on a singular conclusion. Only a minority of new cancer drugs approved by US and European regulatory authorities in recent years deliver clinically meaningful benefits to patients. In fact, some cancer-related deaths may be hastened or even caused by the toxic effects of chemotherapy rather than the cancer itself. Based on a review of tens of thousands of cancer patients, in as many as 27% of cases, the cancer treatment itself caused or hastened death. OK, but it might be worth that risk if the potential benefit is large enough. And that's the subject of my next video. How much does chemotherapy improve survival?
So you'll learn in the next video, which I'm not going to share because I don't have it here, probably that some cancers are benefited more greatly, like thyroid cancer, and like, I don't know what else I can tell you at this point.
Some of the childhood cancers.
The
respond well to
childhood
chemo.
cancers, thank you, Scott, but many of the others, not so much benefit. And if that doesn't knock the feet out from under you, at least you may ask the doctor or the provider who is recommending this chemotherapy, is there documentation for extended life, for improved activities of daily living, or is this just showing that the tumor shrunk a little bit? And so this is just giving you some food for thought, so to speak. I'm not saying you shouldn't use chemotherapy, but when you listen to this video, I know it was eye-opening for me listening to this, and I wanted to share it with you. So what's a person to do if you don't want to do chemotherapy, or if you're not convinced that chemotherapy is going to actually help you? I guess one of the things that we all would not want is a diagnosis of cancer. And is there a way to prevent it? And if there's a way to prevent it, what is it? And if we do develop cancer, is there possibly an alternative? So the next video, I hope, gives you a little hope in terms of dealing with cancer in your life or the life of your relatives. So I'm going to play the next one. I want to make sure let's see, what do I need to do? I need to mute everybody first because a number of people are not muted. So I'm going to mute everybody here. And we're going to go back to this one. As soon as I get to it, I just have to kind of figure out how to get rid of this. And here we go.
Hope goes a long way to somebody who has none. I've seen it. Hope. That's what this lifestyle does. It gives you hope. You're stronger than you've ever been in years. That's hope. And who doesn't want to continue doing what makes them feel amazing after they thought they were over the hill? That's what this lifestyle does. Hope. Neurofibromatosis is the disease I was born with. Most people hear it referred to as NF1 or NF2. And what NF does is it causes tumors to spontaneously form along your peripheral nerves, anywhere in your body without notice. My doctor basically told me that I'd be blind by 18. This would probably lead to cancer. Don't look for too much in life. NF people develop slower than other people. They kind of set me up to don't expect too much from my life. After she died, you know, my life took, man, a downward spiral that most don't come back from. I dropped out of school. I joined the street gang. I started selling drugs. I did everything you're not supposed to do. So how I would deal with my mother's death is I would get a pile of drugs and get obliterated just to numb the pain to get through those few days. But I'm in a better place, and it's because of this lifestyle. So for 35 years, I've watched the NF community battle our disease. And there's no success. There's no thrivers. We have survivors, but surviving to me, you can be plugged into a machine. On life support, you survived. Thriving means that you got sick and you came out the other side better than you did when you went in. That's what I wanted. And if I couldn't have that, I didn't even want to subject myself to what everybody else did. So what I did is told myself, when it's your turn to fight cancer, you're not going to do anything that everybody else did because you have nothing to lose. So when I got diagnosed, they basically said, you're done. Nobody in history has, lived with this type of diagnosis. And you should probably get your affairs in order because 6 months is what you're looking at. And that broke me for about 3 minutes. To sum it up, I had to give up everything I loved, meat, dairy, yeast, and sugar, and had to learn how to love things that taste like dirt for the first 4 weeks of one's transition. I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you that if you decide to do this, it's not gonna be turbulent in the beginning. It's probably the most difficult decision I have ever made in my life. Going from a 10,000 calorie diet to maybe a 4,500 calorie diet that is all plants, seeds, beans, and cruciferous vegetables. You never could have told Meathead that he would be reduced to eating boiled nuts for the rest of his life. So that's about an 18-inch bicep that has no meat in it, has no dairy in it, has no sugar in it, and there's no bread in it. All that this is pine nuts. All the plant-based lifestyle does is detox the 20, 30, 40 years of reckless lifestyle behavior and return you to a younger state. The only reason I'm here today is because of my new mindset. What does that mean? That means that I've removed all negative people, places, and things from my space. My fitness, which is training to live, which is a mindset as well. Where I get up every morning, even if I don't feel like training, and I never feel like training because I'm in pain 24 hours a day. But I don't have an option to not train because all we know is 6 years ago, this was my care plan and I'm here almost 7 years later. And then you have the nutrition component. And that's one of the most important components. And that's what these plants and these phytonutrients do in your blood to fight free radicals and keep the cancer at bay. Keep it happy. Without those three things firing at the same time, I do not exist and I would not be here, and I can't reiterate that enough. Fitness, nutrition, positive mindset over everything. Fitness, nutrition, and positive energy. This journey has showed me that man is not in control, okay? Because I was given 6 months to live in January 2012. I am in the best shape of my life. I turned 42 in a few months. And that's because everything is possible. Everything is possible through the plant-based lifestyle. Everything is possible through positive energy. Everything is possible when you put out what you want to get back. I truly believe that with every fiber in my being, that if you put your mind to it and your heart and intention is righteous, it can happen for you. I've been all the way down before cancer. I come from absolutely nothing. And I stand before you in the best shape of my life, and this journey has took me around the world twice, saving lives. You're not gonna tell me about possibilities. I'm what it looks like. I've spoke in a jail and I've spoken in Congress. It doesn't matter. Everything is possible for everybody, and I'm the proof.
So, I guess I want to kind of make sure you all understand that video is not to tell you don't be taking chemotherapy. The purpose of that video was to share with you the concept that if you eat healthy, potentially you can reverse some cancers and prevent others. And the side effects, you're not likely going to have side effects like you're going to have with some of the chemotherapy, but sometimes a combination of both is warranted. But I've always enjoyed watching that video. It gives me more enthusiasm for teaching another class. So iPhone, you got your hand raised.
Yeah, he mentioned yeast. He quit eating yeast, which we know there's problems with even whole wheat bread we make ourselves, but some of us just don't want to quit eating bread. So making our own at home seems viable. So why does he not want to eat things that are made of yeast or with yeast?
I don't know that I got that. Did you get that, Scott?
Well, yeah, he says that he doesn't eat bread, which is when he says he's not eating sugar or yeast, that's what he means. He's not eating anything processed. So it's just, he's just being really pure. Not that there's any science that says bread causes cancer or anything. It's just, he's just, I think he's just showing that he's trying to be as pure 100% whole food plant-based as he can, because bread is a processed food, right? So
well, we try to make it really under-processed by eliminating the sugar. That's the main reason for making it yourself.
So
so it's okay. Yeah, you don't have to worry about bread. It's just as far as cancer goes.
Charlie's been very positive about fermented foods.
Yeah, so some fermented foods may be helpful. Dr. Greger has concerns about the sodium, the salt load in the fermented foods. But if you're using them as a little garnish and a taste, and some people think it's good for your microbiome and helpful, there's a kind of I'd say, raging debate about fermented foods right now. Fiber Fueled is very popular, and he encourages people to eat fermented foods. And so the debate will go on for a while longer. I've just decided to make some kimchi on my own. just because I like it. I'm going to use it as a taste, but not like a main food. So that's my take on the fermented foods. Yes, Nancy.
Yes, speaking to fermented foods and Ken's love of bread and being happy to make it at home, I think I asked this question in an earlier class, but I'm reminded that sourdough is a fermented food. And I mean, it might be
Yes.
easier on him than just regular yeast bread.
That's a good point. And so the question is if you're getting the health benefits you want and you want to have some bread occasionally, it's probably going to be fine. If you're not getting the health benefits you want, if you're not controlling your diabetes well, or your blood pressure or whatever it might be, or you're, having trouble losing weight, you may want to go with foods that are a little lower in calorie density and that are actually foods that are grown in nature as opposed to the processed. But if you're otherwise doing fine and you have occasional bread, probably an okay thing to do.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Any other thoughts from anyone? Okay, I'm going to go on to the next PowerPoint. I don't like to use PowerPoints generally, but I'm going to share this PowerPoint, Foods That Fight Cancer. It's from one of my first mentor. Her name is Stephanie Polizzi. She's a registered dietitian with the Oregon State Extension Service. Stephanie is a wonderful educator, and she put together a wonderful PowerPoint, which she said that I could use if I want. She's made things pretty clear, and I'm going to run through this with you just because I think it's a good idea. So fighting cancer, she's got the boxing gloves on and starts out with what causes cancer. There's a number of causes of cancer. And so we're going to kind of just scan through these: fried foods, red meat, infections, obesity, alcohol, tobacco, meat-based diets, sedentary lifestyle, UV exposure, and radiation. So these are many of the causes of cancer. Of course, there may be a small amount of genetic components related to cancer, but oftentimes you have to turn those genes on. But there may be some of that also. But these are some of the things you think about. And do we have an issue with that in our culture? I would think so. There was just on the news tonight about the obesity issue, that only 1 out of 4 recruits is qualified physically. They're all overweight, 2 to thirds to 3/4, and they have to kind of get back in shape before they actually qualify for a military. Oh, there's the genetics. We added that in with the next one. There's epigenetics, and that's changes in gene activity are not caused by heredity. There's the lifestyle factors that cause the genes to behave or express themselves. You've heard from Scott and myself about how you load the gun, but that's the genes in there, but something needs to express them. That means pull the trigger, so to speak. And so, and that's the food. So things that turn genes on and off. Only 5% of cancers, 5 to 10% are attributed to genetics. That means 95% are related to epigenetics. That is your lifestyle choices, what you choose to eat, how you move, the chemicals you choose, and how you deal with stress in your life. And then ultimately, lifestyle is the major contributors to cancer. Now, infections, tobacco, meat-based diets, the infections contribute to about 15 to 20% contribution to cancers. Tobacco, 25 to 30, but look at the meat-based diets, fried fruits, red meat, and obesity. What percentage do you think they are? Let's see, we didn't wait long enough. 30, 35%. So the majority of major contributors are related to what we're choosing to eat. That makes food the #1 cause of cancer. Many of you may not have thought about it in that way. What's the #1 cause of heart disease? Hey, it happens to be food. If you've listened to Caldwell Esselstyn and Dean Ornish and most of the other people that we've been standing on the shoulders of, the food is what really makes the difference in our life. So food is also the #1 modality for prevention and treatment of cancer. So let's talk a little bit about nutrition. Diet is linked to 70% of colorectal cancers. Red meat is carcinogenic due to the heterocyclic amines. And actually, you form heterocyclic amines from just about any meat that you heat up and cook, particularly at high temperatures. Saturated fats, trans fats have been pretty much banned, but the saturated fats are associated with most cancers. And where do you get saturated fats? Animal products, fried foods, you get it from the meats, you get it from the cheeses, dairy, and sugars and refined starches activate inflammatory pathways. So now we're talking about nutrition. Whoa, it's not just fats that are causing cancer, it's also these refined sugars or refined starches. Refined white flour activates inflammatory pathways. That's why we are reluctant to tell you, go ahead and keep eating that bread as much as you want, because most of the breads are made with refined flours. Most processed foods are loaded with sugar and refined starches, and that you want to avoid. So some new dietary device we're trying out, it basically delivers an electrical shock whenever you consume junk food. Could work if you're Pavlov's dog, but we generally don't do that in our society. Both fats and sugars are related to obesity. And obesity accounts for 14% of cancer deaths in men, 20% of cancer deaths in women. Women with a BMI of 40 or greater, that's the increased risk of death from cancer is 62%. Not 100%, which would be, like double the rate, but 62% is pretty good, pretty scary. And their links include hormones like insulin and leptin, as well as insulin resistance inflammation. Dairy, let's talk about dairy for a moment. It's linked to prostate, testicular, bladder, colorectal, breast, and ovarian cancers. 2 or more servings of dairy a day increase the risk of prostate cancer by 34%. So a lot of men drinking a lot of milk, getting a lot of prostate cancer, something that we would encourage them to avoid. More on dairy. Here we go. T. Colin Campbell turned on cancer and turned it off by feeding animal protein to his laboratory animals. So removing the dairy turned the cancer genes off. The dairy that he used is casein, that's milk protein. You can get it in milk and cheese, all dairy. So here it shows that he turned cancer on, he turned cancer off by reducing the amount of protein. If you an animal, the rat or whatever he was using, 20% protein, it turned the cancer on. Less than 5% turned cancer off. And then so protein diets of less than 10% protein are protective against cancer. And guess what? What is a whole food plant-based diet? Generally, if you're eating a variety of food, like you're eating the way Gregor recommends, or McDougall, or Bernard, or I don't know, Esselstyn, you're going to get about 10% or less protein in your diet. You're going to get an adequate amount of protein, but it's going to be protective against cancer. If you're eating a diet greater than 10% protein, which I did for a number of years, it was called the zone diet. I was eating 30% protein, turning on potentially cancer genes. Well, I've been doing this for 10 years now, and hopefully they're turned off.
And one thing to add is that's animal protein. So when they've studied diets that are, higher in protein that are plant-based, like say you're getting 15 to 20% because you eat lots of beans and quinoa and things like that, that did not show to turn on the cancer, because we think it's because of the IGF-1, that insulin-like growth factor 1. So the plant protein is, you don't have to worry about it as much, too much.
Thank you, Scott, for chiming in there, and we're gonna just keep on going. Does the sugar feed cancer? So technically, this is a myth that sugar feeds the cancer, but diets high in processed foods contribute sugar, fat, and empty and non-nutrient calories. These all cause inflammation, which is associated with cancer growth. So I guess it's a bit of terminology. Rather than just saying sugar feeds the cancer, sugar, refined sugars, refined carbohydrates, these all cause inflammation, which is something you don't want. Protective foods, we all want to know about those. And probably all of you know that fruits and vegetables are healthy. Okay. Whole grains are actually healthy. How are the whole grains the healthiest? They're healthiest when you don't chop them up finely into flour. They're healthiest when you eat them like oatmeal, or like groats, or steel cut oats, or like bulgur, or like kamut, or like rice, brown rice or whole grain, or quinoa. Those are healthy protective foods. Spices are generally healthy, and we'll learn about that in a couple more videos that I have to share with you. And there's 25,000 phytochemicals that have been discovered which to reduce the risk of cancer. What are phytochemicals? Phyto means plant. It doesn't mean animal. Those 25,000 you'll find only if you're eating plants. So every time you choose to eat an animal product, you're going to be depriving yourself of some of those 25,000 phytochemicals, which may help reduce your risk of cancer. Okay, cancer cells, give it up. There's no escaping. I've got you covered. There's the broccoli. And so here's some of the chemicals. Carotenoids. Where do you get those? They're anti-inflammatory, anti-carcinogenic. You get those from in lycopene, beta carotene. Lycopene's in what? Tomatoes. Beta carotene is in carrots, and capsaicin is in peppers. So you get dark red, orange, yellow, and green fruits and vegetables. That's why we encourage you to eat the colors of the rainbow. Any other thoughts? Okay.
My hand's still up?
Okay, we'll go. Let's hear a question then.
I wanted to ask you about cut oatmeal. Why is cut oatmeal, non-cut oatmeal, why is cut oatmeal better than the other kind?
Steel cut oatmeal versus plain oatmeal is what you're talking about.
Yes. What's the difference?
So you take a groat, which is the form is grown on the oat plant. And so that's what we choose to eat. Now, if you take that groat and you slice it with a steel blade, you slice it maybe into quarters or whatever, it still has its fiber around it. So it's steel cut oats. Still has more fiber than when you strip that fiber away and you make the regular oatmeal. So regular oatmeal, like the 5-minute cooking kind, it has the majority of its fiber, particularly the soluble fiber that dissolves in water. But you've lost a bit of the non-soluble or the fibrous fiber. And that non-soluble fiber is food for your microbiome. That's why I choose to eat groats as opposed to the other forms. But
Is that what you get when you buy it in bulk?
when you buy it in bulk, you can get rolled oats is what you usually get, and it can
Right.
be thick rolled oats or regular oats. And if you like the thick rolled oats, it's not quite as mushy. But it's still probably, it doesn't have the fiber that groats. You can buy that in bulk. We buy it in the 25-pound bag. Groats.
It would be labeled groats, not oats.
Correct.
Okay.
GROATS.
I haven't, do you know who has that locally?
Hummingbird, whatever it is, but you have to buy 150 quantities. So you can get groats at natural grocers. I believe they have groats in smaller quantities that you could try.
And if you want to try if you want a smaller bag to try at Fred Meyer, Bob's Red Mill has a oat groats in a smaller bag.
I couldn't find it, but I'll look again.
And
Okay.
you look for oat groats, like Scott said. There are other kind of groats. I can't think of what they are now, but oat groats.
Oat/groat or oat groat.
Yeah, oat groat.
Sounds like you're making fun of it. Okay.
No, it's
You
Scott.
can get it at Sundance or Capella or Market of Choice or Kiva
I
and
haven't
get the
seen it.
exact amount that you want. Pardon me?
Okay, I haven't seen it in Market of Choice, but I'll look again. Thank you.
All right, there's a couple more hands. There's Nancy and I think it's Ken.
Yeah,
Nancy.
I was under the impression that McCann's steel cut Irish oats are the groat form. Do you know?
I
mean-
don't know. If you call them up and say, have you stripped off any of the fiber when you cut through there? Or, does some of the fiber come off? Then you'll know there's slightly less. But it's probably, if you like steel cut oats, eat the steel cut oats. They're healthy.
Yeah, I think that brand is, and you can get that in a small amount. And
Okay.
if you wanted to try it, I think it's the same. But anyway, I just wanted to know if you do for sure. But,
I don't, but
yeah, they're really good. I mean, and the fiber, because out the kazoo, literally.
it is. It's really good, the fiber. Okay, iPhone.
Well, I'm back.
Oh, Ken. Okay, go ahead, Ken.
Just a couple, I'm no doctor, so I can't say I'm reinforcing anything you say, but just from all the studying I've done, I know a few things. 1 out of 6 men over 50 are dealing with prostate cancer, so it's pretty serious. And 30,000 die a year. And people ask you, like, how do you get prostate cancer? Well, we know that soldiers got it in Vietnam from being sprayed with Agent Orange dioxin. And farmers are the second biggest group because they use prostate and some other cousins of Agent Orange. But the main thing we say is men in the Am I reverberating a lot? I've got 2 devices going and it's driving me crazy. What we say when people ask what causes prostate cancer, we can say those 2 things, the men that are farmers or got sprayed in Vietnam. But we can say that in all developed cultures in probably a lot of other places, but we know for sure Western Europe, United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the rate of prostate cancer is crazy high. And so we do know this. Men in Asia, where their diet is primarily rice and maybe beans and a tiny bit of meat, men in Asia do not get prostate cancer. And so they move to those nations and places I mentioned. So
Yeah, the
we
United
know-
States, Australia, and other countries that are animal-based, heavily animal-based.
So we know it's diet.
All right, thank you for that. And we're gonna go on next to iPhone.
That was me. And I'll put my hand down.
Are you on both, Ken? The iPhone and the other?
I'm
Turn
trying.
one of them off and that'll work, but okay, I got it. I thought it was Ken anyway. I'm gonna mute everybody again and we're gonna go back to finish off the PowerPoint here. And let's see if I can do that with a fell swoop here. I'm gonna go back here, share, and we're back here. The eating your colors of the rainbow is what we're proposing, and there they are. And then resveratrol. Resveratrol, another chemical protective for breast, prostate, stomach, colon, pancreas, and myeloid cancers. It's found in dark fruits like grapes and cherries and berries and peanuts. So eat away on your berries and grapes. Quercetin. It's antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, particularly helpful against colon and lung cancers. The flavonoids are found in many fruits, vegetables, tea, and some wine, and particularly onions. Now, wine has an effect that can cause cancer, so particularly breast cancer. So I'd be careful about that one. Red wine has kind of a neutral effect, I understand, but eating the grapes is probably healthiest. But we'll get on to this, a few more of these in a moment. And then sulforaphane, that's an important one. It metabolizes carcinogens and including estrogens. It's found in cruciferous vegetables like cabbage, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, and radishes, actually. So there you go. Cruciferous family is important family for adding more sulforaphane into your diet. It kills cancer cells, actually. So cancer affected by broccoli include breast, ovarian, pancreatic, colon, prostate, and with no adverse effects. So eat your broccoli. Tea and spices, they are all generally helpful. Green or black teas are high in antioxidants. Curcumin regulates gene expression, especially in breast, esophageal, stomach, and colon cancers. So consider getting a quarter teaspoon at least of curcumin or turmeric in your diet on a regular basis. Here's a few more spices, which we don't need to go into this and knock you into the ground, but cloves and fenugreek and fennel and ginger, red chilies, garlic, those are all healthy spices. Think about incorporating them as time goes on. And of course, nitric oxide is an important one. We've learned that it helps reverse heart disease, helps your arteries open up, improve blood flow. It's toxic to cancer cells. And we make nitric oxide from the nitrates that are found in the dark green leafies, like kale, Swiss chard, arugula, and spinach, and we have those almost on a daily basis. The veggies must be raw and must be chewed to make nitric oxide. I'm not so sure they must be raw. This is something that Stephanie Polisi feels strongly about, and I looked up in Dr. Esselstyn's book, How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. He has recipes that they do cook. So he's a big fan of promoting nitric oxide by eating greens. And I haven't heard him say that it has to be raw. So I tell people eat 50-50 if you can, 50% raw, 50% cooked to kind of cover your bases. And you'll probably get enough nitric oxide. Let's see, what else do we want to say? I think I'm toward the end here. Whole grains are important. They contain antioxidants like vitamin E, some other lignans, phytic acid, and fiber. So when people are told don't eat whole grains, not particularly the healthiest of advice. Intake of whole grains has been shown to reduce the risk of at least 18 different cancers. So if you have problems with whole grains, like like gluten or whatever it is in the whole grains, then you want to avoid it if you have celiac disease or a significant gluten sensitivity. But if you don't, eating whole grains is helpful and can help reduce the risk of some cancers. Let's see, what else do I want to go over here? How the grains work. They have insoluble fiber, ferments, it suppresses tumor formation. Soluble fiber lowers blood sugars and improves insulin sensitivity, and the isoflavones prevent cancer growth from soy and other legumes. Now, soy and cancer. This is one that we always get questions on, and Scott went over this last time. No evidence to suggest soy contributes to estrogen-fed cancers. You do not have to worry about eating soy if you're keeping it between 3 and 5 servings a day. It actually is considered safe and beneficial. In fact, the studies can show that it will reduce the risk of recurrence of breast cancer, and people live longer who are eating soy after a diagnosis of breast cancer. But the soy isolates, like those found in powders and some of the fake meats, we don't know the safety of those. So be careful of those in your life. Studies in humans show anti-cancer effects with soy. They actually block the effects of your own body estrogen, perhaps, and they have antioxidant, anti-inflammatory properties. So which of these foods fight cancer? Which one up of these 4? If you put your hand over the broccoli, that's a good answer. And caloric restriction can sometimes be beneficial. Reduces the incidence of tumors, 30%, 6% reduction in calories, dramatically decreased radiation-induced tumors. That would cause me to be hungry. I wouldn't like that too much. So I'd just as soon eat the whole foods, and that will reduce the calories naturally because they're lower calorie density foods. How do you reduce calories without eating less food? You eat less meat, dairy, fatty, and processed foods. And that's the strategy that we've been encouraging you. And that includes eating more veggies. So if you look at the calorie density chart, you see that oils are not particularly a healthy choice. They're 4,000 calories a pound, nuts and seeds. Got to be careful about too much of those, but a tablespoon of flaxseed with a 1/4 cup of nuts is probably okay. Be careful about the junk foods and the refined carbs and white flour and animal products, and stick with the veggies, fruit, whole grains, and legumes. So no single food protects against cancer. Vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals are protective. Phytochemicals are only found in plant foods. Remember, phyto stands for plant. And when you're eating a combination of whole plant foods, they act synergistically together to knock out cancer. So, meat, especially red meats, avoid. Greater than 10% protein composed of animal products, avoid. Preserved meats, avoid. Other animal products, avoid, along with saturated fats and processed oils. Avoid or limit or avoid. And animal versus plant foods, You know the story. Plant foods have no saturated fat or cholesterol. They are the only ones that contain the phytochemicals and antioxidants. Only plants have fiber. And the protein content is in proportion to the ideal intake. Plants are the best things to be incorporating in your life. And to knock out the body needs, let's see, this amount of protein. We've talked about this into the ground. You get enough protein if you're eating a variety of plants, and limit your fats. Keep protein 10% calories or less. A lot of this is, redundant to try to encourage the message. So I'm just gonna skim through this and say, actually, we're done for now. All right. Because I have a couple other videos that I want to share with you. I'm going to go back here because I was trigger happy with my finger, and I X'd out my desktop for a moment, and I have to get back my class 11 to share a couple more videos with you, which, here we go. All right, so we're gonna go to veggies and cancer, veggies versus cancer.
But anyway, back to beans. In terms of nutrient density, nutrients per calorie, are beans the most nutritious class of whole foods? Or is it fruit, nuts and seeds, vegetables, or whole grains? What should go on the base of a healthy eating pyramid? Beans, fruits, nuts, veggies, or grains? Definitely vegetables. But which are the healthiest ones? A major advance was made this year ranking vegetables. Graphs like this that I've shared over the years that compare the antioxidant power of foods were all based on very primitive methods, basically just measuring how much a food slows down an oxidation reaction between two chemicals in a machine. That was the best we had, but it required a leap of faith that what was happening in the test tube could be extrapolated to what might actually happen in living human tissue. This year, though, a landmark study was published pitting 34 common vegetables against 8 different types of human cancers: breast cancer, brain tumors, kidney cancer, lung cancer, childhood brain tumors, pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, and stomach cancer. Let's look at breast cancer. I'll cover up the answers. What's being measured is tumor cell proliferation. Here's the control. You drip some water on a human breast tumor, and nothing happens. It's
Okay, I need to stop because someone has their microphone on, and it's hard enough to hear this, so I'm gonna mute everybody again, because it's just too noisy in the room when you leave your microphone on. So let's go back again to where we were, see if I can get back, and then we can maybe actually hear what Gregor is having to say here. Let's continue on. Where were we? Okay, whatever. I gotta start it over.
But anyway,
I'll come over
which are the
here.
healthiest ones? 2 chemicals in a machine. That was the best we had, but it required a leap of faith that what was happening in the test tube could be extrapolated to what might actually happen in living human tissue. This year, though, a landmark study was published pitting 34 common vegetables against 8 different types of human cancers: breast cancer, brain tumors, kidney cancer, lung cancer, childhood brain tumors, pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, and stomach cancer. Let's look at breast cancer. I'll cover up the answers. What's being measured is tumor cell proliferation. Here's the control. You drip some water on a human breast tumor, and nothing happens. It's still powering away at 100% growth rate. And these 7 vegetables appear useless against breast cancer, no different than placebo. But these 6 cut the cancer growth rate in half, and these 5 at the end stop cancer growth completely, stop these tumor cells dead in their tracks. The take-home message number 1 from this new data is that we need to eat a variety of vegetables. Take a look. Radishes, for example, do nothing against pancreatic cancer. In fact, if anything, they may actually accelerate growth. But against stomach cancer, they completely eliminated tumor cell growth. On the other hand, orange bell peppers don't do much for stomach cancer, but can cut prostate cancer growth by more than 75%. So we need to eat a variety of vegetables because they each tend to target different cancers. If you're particularly concerned about a specific cancer, like if you have a strong family history of breast cancer, then you can narrow it down and really nail those 5 or 6 veggies every day that excel at targeting breast tissue. But otherwise, to fight against any kind of cancer, we've got to eat a portfolio of vegetables to cover all our bases.
Okay, so we're going to carry this on. That was the first in the series of 2. And so we're going to play this last video.
That doesn't mean some veggies aren't better than others. Some of these vegetables target multiple cancers at the same time. So using this groundbreaking new data, let's play Which is Healthier. Imagine you're standing in line at one of those custom made-to-order salad places where you get to choose your lettuce, choose your toppings, and then choose your dressing. Let's assume you don't have a strong family history of any particular cancer, and so aren't trying to hone in on avoiding one tumor over any other. First, let's choose our lettuce. Boston, endive, radicchio, romaine, or spinach? Which is healthier? Out of the 5, spinach is number 1 against breast cancer. Remember, the farther down, the better it is at slowing down these cancer cells. Number 1 against brain tumors. Number 1 against kidney cancer. Number 1 against lung cancer and pediatric brain tumors. That's why we need to feed our kids spinach. Number 1 against pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, and stomach cancer. Now, it's not number 1 overall. There are 16 vegetables more powerful at stopping stomach cancer growth than spinach, but out of those 5 salad greens, spinach wins out across the board against every cancer type tested. What if the salad place said they were out of spinach, though? Which comes in second out of the 4 left to choose from? For breast cancer, radicchio is number 2. Against brain tumors, radicchio. Kidney cancer, radicchio. Radicchio. Romaine, radicchio, radicchio, and radicchio. So overall, out of those choices for greens, radicchio is second healthiest. Back to the menu. Next, we get to choose 4 toppings. Now, there's a long line of people behind you, all staring at us to make our choice. We don't have time to ponder and pick the 4 absolute best, but we can at least make a guess as to roughly where on the graph they are. Yes or no? According to this amazing new data, do carrots slow down cancer cell growth rates more than 50%? Yes or no? The answer is no, 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 and no. So, shredded carrots aren't going to make our top toppings choice. What about shredded beets?
Yes or no? Yes. Super yes. Brain tumor, just beat it. Kidney cancer is a no, close to 50%, but not quite there. But then yes, 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 yes. So, overall, yes for beets. Are we putting cucumber on our salad? As tasty as they may be, no. For most cancers, it suppressed tumor cell growth less than 50%. What about tomato? No tomatoes either. What about a potato? You can actually choose potatoes for your salad. Yes or no? No potatoes either. Wait a second, no iceberg lettuce, carrots, cucumbers, tomatoes, potatoes, that's all people eat. That's the problem. Even people eating their vegetables aren't really eating their vegetables. The majority of veggies people commonly eat have little effect. Cutting to the chase. The line at the salad place is now out the door at this point. In this study, there was one clear winner, one vegetable that completely 100% stopped cancer growth in 7 out of the 8 tumor lines. One of the most important findings of the year. Which vegetable was it? Was it bok choy, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, fiddlehead ferns, garlic, kale, or red cabbage? Number 1 against breast cancer, garlic. Number 1 against brain tumors, garlic. Number 2 against kidney cancer, lung cancer, garlic. Childhood brain tumors, garlic. Pancreatic cancer, garlic. Prostate cancer, and stomach cancer, garlic. So might I suggest a garlicky salad dressing? But wait, is it just that garlic is toxic to all cells? Yes, it stops the growth of cancer cells, but maybe it stops the growth of healthy cells too. That wouldn't be good. They tested for that. The black bars are the cancer cells. The white bars are the normal cells. As you can see, garlic slams cancer cells, but doesn't touch normal cells. And the same thing with pretty much all the vegetables. They're selective. They go after the cancer cells, but leave the normal cells alone. Veggies are amazing. Now, if you didn't pick garlic and instead chose one of those others, you probably weren't far off. The 2 best families of vegetables for cancer prevention are the cruciferous vegetables, like broccoli, kale, cabbage, and the allium family vegetables, like garlic, onions, and leeks. Let me just run through this one last time to highlight this important concept. Starting from the beginning, cruciferous vegetables in green, allium family vegetables in yellow. So what I want you to notice is the clustering of colors over to the right side, which illustrates the power of these 2 superfood classes of vegetables, whether for breast cancer, brain cancer, kidney cancer, lung cancer, or brain cancer. Interestingly, you'll notice that bok choy is often the kind of odd one out, apparently the least healthy of the cruciferous vegetables. Pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, and finally, stomach cancer. So, you know, all those recipes that start with like garlic and onions and then you throw in some greens? That is the way to eat. The researchers conclude the inclusion of cruciferous and allium family vegetables in the diet is essential for effective dietary-based chemopreventive or cancer preventive strategies.
So there you have it, in a nutshell, so to speak. And I hope that kind of encourages you to consider adding some allium or cruciferous veggies to your diet if you're not already involved with that.
I think a good, oh, go ahead. I was gonna say,
Go ahead.
it brings to light a really good example of, you know, how Dr. Greger does the daily dozen. So, I mean, so his point with those videos is not to, you shouldn't eat, you know, cucumbers or carrots, or you can still eat those foods, but but they don't get their own category in the daily dozen, like cruciferous vegetables and leafy greens and eating garlic and onions and things like that. So it's like, those are so you want a wide array, but you really want to make sure you're getting that garlic in and the allium family and the cruciferous vegetables in there. But it doesn't mean you can't eat cucumbers and carrots.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I don't see artichokes anywhere. Do you know where they fall?
Healthy. I don't know where they fall for anti-cancer though.
No, but in general, it's a very good vegetable, yes?
Yes.
Does that include marinated artichokes?
I'm not sure what they do when they marinate it, but I like them either way, and so I would eat them. If you
Okay.
like them, eat them.
I
It
like
adds
them.
variety. It's improving your microbiome. I wouldn't say eat 5 artichokes a day. I'd say have an artichoke occasionally.
I add it to salads. It's very good in salads.
Perfecto, you know, that's a good choice.
I just have a big aversion to thistles.
Marinated artichokes don't have thistle. No thistle.
Man, I saw an artichoke the other day that was like 12 feet tall.
Really?
Those thistles, they just get out of control fast. But artichokes are hard to grow because it's biennials. A lot of things can go wrong in 2 years.
I have a question about bread. They're talking about that bread is not really healthy because it's processed. But I am trying to keep my weight as it is. I don't want to lose any more weight. And Scott and my kidney doctor said that it was okay to eat bread and also the grape nut cereal that I eat. So I wanted to get that clarified.
So again, your kidney function, you just told us after 90 days went from stage 3 to normal kidney function. So whatever you're doing, you're eating some bread, it's working for you. You can continue to do that. If you came to me after 90 days and said, I'm still, you know, my GFR is still not normal, then I'd say, why don't you try just eating whole plant foods for another month or two, see if your kidney functions go completely normal. So since yours are in the normal range now, after only 90 days, having some bread is probably fine. If you didn't want to eat bread, then you would add a few more legumes like beans or lentils, or you could add a little more potatoes, or you could add a little bit more, whatever it is, oatmeal in your life, and a little less bread, you know, or the whole grain. If you like bread, you might like groats because it's got a more chewier kind of consistency and whatever. Just my thought.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Scott, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, just for, like we've always talked about, people that are trying to gain weight or maintain weight because they're on the thin side, then you just go with some of the healthier, higher calorie density foods like nuts and seeds and avocados and maybe a little bread, more pasta, because it's not going to harm your health, but it's going to give you a little bit more calories if you're trying to gain a little bit of weight. But 99% of the patients that we see and I see are trying to lose weight. So it's those rare circumstances where people that are very athletic, burning a lot of calories, professional athletes, things like that, they need more calories, a little more calorie density. So then, some of those higher calorie density foods, even if they're just minimally processed, like a good whole grain bread, that might be an okay choice.
I have a question.
Yes, Beth.
During PowerPoint, the Esselstyn book that you held up, was that their cookbook?
For some reason, we can't hear you, Beth.
Oh, okay, just a second.
There you go.
Okay, is
We
that
could hear
better?
you.
Okay, sorry. The Esselstyn book that you held up, was that their cookbook?
Yeah, it's how to prevent. I don't know. I don't have my face on here. Let me see. Can you see it?
Yeah,
here?
Well, I
That's
have
not
that. I
the
just,
cookbook.
How to prevent.
that's what I wondered.
It's not their cookbook, but it has
Okay.
recipes in the back, like the last
Okay.
100 pages.
So I have their cookbook, so I didn't realize they had another book. So that's nice.
This is the first book that they put out before the
Okay.
cookbook came out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, do you recommend that book? Do you find it helpful?
I find it helpful for those people who've had their heart attack or have a relative or don't want to have a heart attack. And I
Okay.
recommend they read it like I did, watch Forks Over Knives and make a decision. Is this something they want to do? Because it's inspiring about how people get their heart disease reversed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
I just wanted to say hi and welcome back from Greece.
Oh, well, thank you.
Hey, Velvet.
It's good to be back. And one of these days we may have a little a short session on some of the highlights of Greece. And I don't know when that would ever happen, but maybe if we run out of food questions to talk about, or maybe in an afternoon session or something. But it's good to be back. Nice to see you, Velvet.
So I went to a raw cooking class tonight.
A raw cooking, okay?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But he made crackers and stuff out of the juice pulp
Uh-huh.
and I don't know, all kinds of cool stuff. But I thought it
Interesting.
was cool that we have something like that in Medford. He's a chef that runs a plant-based restaurant here.
Another plant-based other than the one that's
Yeah.
Southtown?
So
You're
next
s-
time
you're so-
you come down, we have to go to this one.
All right, next time we come down, we'll go to that one. I'm
Yeah.
thrilled to hear that. I hope Eugene starts getting as much as Medford. We're in
Isn't
competition
that
now.
weird?
It
That's
is weird.
Yeah.
Okay, Dolly.
Hi, everybody. We were talking about vegetable stock earlier.
Yeah,
I get this brand at Safeway or at our Walmart here in Cottage Grove, and it's unsalted. And there's only 170 milligrams of sodium.
there you go.
That's
Much
one I
bet-
use too. And that's one I use too. And we get it at Fred Meyer.
Much better than the 600. Okay,
What
and
is that? What is the brand?
Kitchen Basics.
Kitchen Basics.
all right, Ken, you have one more question?
Yeah, you want to talk about grace, and a lot of times when I manage to get to talking to people about the plant-based diet, they say, "Oh, you mean the Mediterranean diet?" And I say, "Well, no, but it apparently is a good diet because at least one of the blue zones are in the Mediterranean." So, can you come up with a program where we learn about that diet, the good things and the bad things?
Yeah, so basically the Mediterranean adds fruits and vegetables. It's much superior to the SAD diet, the standard American diet, but it also incorporates some fish, and it incorporates some olive oil. Whether it's the increase in fruits and vegetables that does the trick that makes it healthier, and the less animal products, that probably is the reason why it does reduce heart attacks and improve health. But from my understanding, it's sort of in a intermediate range between the most ideal, which would be mainly whole plant foods as they're grown in nature, maybe occasional fish for some of those who are not getting enough omega-3s, who refuse to eat sea vegetables or whatever. And the olive oil issue is maybe a small amount of olive oil for some healthy people who start out when they're young and haven't developed severe cardiovascular disease or diabetes. Maybe a little olive oil is maybe okay, but by and large, the majority of oil, it's very high calorie density food, and by and large, not so healthy. So there are various kinds of Mediterranean diets. There's no one completely defined, other than, it's my take, more fruits and vegetables, and maybe like in Greece, a little Greek yogurt or whatever. Scott, what's your take?
Yeah, I always fall back to the studies, and the most ideal Mediterranean diet, which is kind of what you described there. The only real good study we have on it is the PREDIMED study out of Spain. And so I always just fall back to the science. So the science says PREDIMED is the best, most ideal study to study the benefits and what the science says about the Mediterranean diet. And that study showed it slowed the progression of heart disease, but it didn't reverse it. And so I would just say, well, take a whole food plant-based diet, which is mostly a Mediterranean diet, but get rid of the fish, get rid of the olive oil, get rid of the dairy, and get lots of exercise. And that's a whole food plant-based diet minus those foods. That's been shown to reverse heart disease, put it in reverse. Whereas PREDIMED showed it just slowed heart disease. So you just want to slow your heart disease that you already have, or do you want to reverse it? And so that's where that comes in, and that's, you know, that's what the science shows, the PREDIMED study out of Spain. So it's certainly a much improved diet, but we could say, hey, but let's get rid of the thing. So we think it's the whole food plant-based nature of the Mediterranean diet that makes it healthy, and then you're just worsening the benefits of it by adding in the fish, the olive oil, and the dairy products.
So I wanted to say hello to Dr. Eric and to Lisa, and glad to see you both able to make it. We had some more fun tonight. Look forward to having some more sessions. Any thoughts from any of you, anybody else in the group?
Next week will be an open forum, so we can discuss any of this stuff some more, and we can also discuss cancer more. We could also maybe talk about your Greece trip a little bit, whatever we want to do next week.
Okay, we'll do a little bit of that perhaps, and maybe I'll take 10 minutes to do a few Greek slides. We'll see how it goes, how many questions we have and what the interest is.
I look forward to it.
Okay.
Maybe Christine could join. She put some nice pictures on Facebook.
Okay, I'll talk to her about that. Okay, guys, another day. It flew by again, and we managed to all survive. So it's nice to see all your faces, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a good one.
All right, take care. Stay cool out there.
Thank you, Scott.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.